Hey, it's Piotr from CJ Wisdom. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create AI renders directly in SketchUp with a game-changing extension called SketchUp Diffusion, straight from SketchUp Labs. I'll walk you through where to download it, how to install it, and then dive into best practices. We'll see how it compares to V-Ray and even touch on some legal considerations. Ready to see what AI can do inside SketchUp? Let's get started. SketchUp Diffusion is an extension. That means it is not available in SketchUp by default. To have an icon like mine, you first need to install this, let's call it, software. I therefore move on to Extensions and Extension Warehouse, which will take me to the so-called extension library. And in this library, I need to find SketchUp Diffusion, which, as you can see right away, is completely free. Under certain conditions, more about which in a moment. If you can't find SketchUp Diffusion on Extension Warehouse, just type SketchUp Diffusion in the search bar at the top of this window. SketchUp Diffusion should appear here. After clicking on the icon, you will have the entire panel with this extension. We can read here that the extension is still in beta, in the development phase, and we can somewhat contribute to this development by sending some anonymized data to the producer. That's not important for now. What is important is that the plugin is available for free. So you can download it, but the condition is that you must have a current active version of SketchUp. A subscription to SketchUp 2021, 2022, or 2023. If you meet these conditions, just click Install. You will agree to allow this extension to have access to save files on your computer, as it needs to do this to save temporary visualizations. If everything went well like it did for me, you should see an icon like this. We're closing this window now. To use this extension, it's best to have some kind of model. In my case, let's start with a simple chair on a white background. We set up the view I would like to transfer to SketchUp Diffusion and click the appropriate icon. As you can see, the view I have in SketchUp is also loading into Diffusion, and this is where everything will happen now. The plugin is controlled using a so-called prompt, where you type in whatever you want verbally, and based on this verbal command, artificial intelligence prepares the result for you. In my case, I would like it to be a photo. Typing, photo of a chair. The more precise the prompt, the better the results. I add the characteristics green velour or velvet. Seating golden legs, upholstered, product visualization, or even product photography. Why limit ourselves to visualization? White background, photo studio, and maybe some dynamic lighting and image features, so 4K Ultra HD. Fujifilm X-T3 is the name of a very professional camera to which artificial intelligence is particularly sensitive. If I entered my prompt, which is what I expect from the artificial intelligence, a command that the artificial intelligence should execute. At this moment, the robots are doing the thing, meaning we are waiting for the artificial intelligence algorithm, or more simply, machine learning, to process the file sent to the servers and then give me 3 results from which I can choose one. What remains for me to do is click Generate. Here they are. So we indeed have a green velvet chair with golden legs against a neutral white photo studio background. In such photographic conditions, as you can see, it took maybe 10 seconds. The rendering process is completely negligible because the image we have in SketchUp is sent to external servers where all the calculations are done. So you could say SketchUp does it for us. You can just as well create such visualizations on a tablet using the SketchUp mobile version. You are not limited by the capabilities or parameters of your computer. Such a prepared visualization can be saved, so let's say I like this image the most. I choose Save, indicate the appropriate location. I even already have the file name. I click Save. The saved image lands in the appropriate location. We can enlarge it and see how it looks in full glory. SketchUp Diffusion handled this simple velvet chair like a pro. But now let's turn up the difficulty and see how it performs on something more complex.
So I choose SketchUp Diffusion again. The view is loading. If it is more advanced, it takes a bit longer, but after a moment it loads. Additionally, it might be worth mentioning the resolution here, or perhaps more about the aspect ratio. You see that the aspect ratio is exactly what we have here. So if I wanted a more square view, I would just manipulate this default container accordingly. At the moment, it is close to a square, and then I will click Refresh Input View, which will update this view for me. And now I will work on something like this. Now I see that maybe I overdid it a bit because I should step back a little. At any moment, we can update this view. I can also change the camera position by simply navigating to another place in the scene. In any case, if we are ready to create our visualization, we can describe the task or use a shortcut. When choosing a style here among the styles proposed by SketchUp Diffusion, we have exterior, interior photography, aerial plan, pencil sketch, watercolor, illustration, clay model, and physical model. If I choose a photorealistic interior, then notice that to my prompt, which I will enter here, for example, Scandinavian kitchen, phrases will also be added: raw photo 8K, Ultra HD, DSLR soft lighting, high quality film grain, famous Fuji X-T3 interior indoor, and architectural. So now my prompt will not only be Scandinavian kitchen, but also what I add here at the bottom in the settings. Speaking of settings, we also have the settings function here. If we expand it, you'll see. We have respect model geometry and prompt influence. This means, to what extent should artificial intelligence, these machine learning algorithms, respect, which means adhere to my geometry? To what extent does this geometry influence our final result? To a very large extent, or almost not at all. If we're looking for some inspiration for the interior, maybe sometimes it's worth trying something lower. If we don't want artificial intelligence to hallucinate too much, to not try to invent something on its own, then we will try to set this influence, this respect model geometry quite high. And speaking of influence, prompt influence is the impact of the prompt, what I enter, but also those phrases suggested by the style on the final effect. So prompt influence somewhere in the middle will probably be the best solution. To a small extent, we will contribute with our prompt to what ultimately appears in the visualization, and if this prompt influence is too large again, we might leave too little room for artificial intelligence to come up with something unique. There is a specific rule that the more we try to force artificial intelligence to do something, the slightly worse results we will get. It's good to leave it some room. The parameters you should follow are roughly between 1 and 10 in prompt influence. You can go slightly lower, but for standard results, settings of 0.8, 0.9, 1, 10 will be optimal. And that's basically all we can do in Diffusion, so we have the ability to handle the prompt, additionally supporting it with style. We have the ability to configure the settings, the degree to which geometry and the prompt will affect our final result. And that's all we can do. The final visualizations can also be saved. The images that we don't save will disappear, be deleted from the computer's memory, so it's worth saving the results you get, at least the best ones, regularly. See how well Diffusion handled my space. Although the colors are not entirely accurate, the space, light, and photorealism of this scene are truly striking. If, however, the visualizations you receive do not satisfy you, then we can take it further. That is, increase the respect model geometry, let's say to 1, maybe prompt influence even more, to 12. And regarding this prompt, see that I have detailed it a bit. First, as you remember, I created a visualization solely with the prompt Scandinavian kitchen, and of course, phrases from the styles proposed by Diffusion were added, but now we can try something a bit more precise. So, affordable kitchen, mint cabinet fronts. Or, let's change it to doors to be more correct. White subway tiles, white stucco walls, wooden parquet, bright linen, and as you can see, I'm starting from the general. So first, I define what this specific space should be. Then, the most important things for me to the less important ones. The gray fabric sofa is actually the least important of all. Additionally, I specify the style, atmospheric conditions, let's call it that. And finally, of course, I could add all those tags, but they are already here. There is also a view of the city in the background. I don't really care about it the least, but I would like something to be visible through those windows because earlier, as you can notice, these two proposals were not the best. I might even add a view of the city in the background scene through the windows, maybe something like that. And creating another iteration, the next 3 visualizations should help achieve the effect that I actually expect from Diffusion. Remember that to achieve the effect you want, you will probably need to create a series of visualizations. The basic 3 are often insufficient. As you can see, at the moment we can only preview 3 images. To create another 3, we click Generate again. As you can see, the effect is already somewhat better for most elements. Indeed, Diffusion follows what I required of it. However, some elements still aren't as I would like, so I simply click Generate. This isn't V-Ray, where we would have to wait X minutes for the next render. Here, after several seconds, I have 3 ready results. Ultimately, I managed to create visualizations that much more closely resemble what I wanted to achieve. The last example will be architecture from the outside. Let's see what SketchUp Diffusion offers us beyond photorealistic shots. So I just need to set up an appropriate view. Okay, I'm not even trying particularly hard. I choose SketchUp Diffusion, and in Diffusion we can slightly expand this window. Okay, I choose a slightly different style. Earlier I chose interior photorealism, and here we could similarly choose exterior photorealism, but let's pick something more interesting like watercolor, and right here modern semi-detached house, and the rest should be taken care of. Maybe let's also enter architecture, great. We leave the settings as default and click generate. You will see that besides photorealistic visualizations, Diffusion also offers the possibility of a slightly more artistic perspective on presenting your ideas. It can be a pencil sketch, a physical model, some cutout, or a collage. In my case, this watercolor looks like this. Maybe it will be better visible if I reduce it. You can see that Diffusion is indeed able to transfer those characteristics typical of watercolor. You can create your own styles and not limit yourself to what we have here. A pencil sketch will look a bit different, but you just need to choose no style, and instead of the phrases you have entered here, suggest some of your own phrases. If you want to have a plaster cast or maybe a sculpture in wood, there is no problem at all. The only limitation with Diffusion is really your imagination. The mentioned pencil sketch looks like this. For more detailed information, I refer you to the Help Center, SketchUp's Help Center, specifically at help.sketchup.com/SketchUpDiffusion, where you can read more about this plugin. You won't learn much more from this than what I've told you, but here you'll find good practices for creating prompts. Maybe this will give you some hints, help you. As a rule, however, controlling SketchUp Diffusion is simply done through the prompt, and in the prompt plus geometry, you can make changes to achieve some better results. As for whether SketchUp Diffusion will replace V-Ray, I think definitely not on a one-to-one scale. The effects created by Diffusion are still not as precise as what V-Ray does. However, Diffusion definitely has a chance to replace a certain market segment, and I see no reason why interior architects shouldn't use it for inspiration in creating some initial concepts. Even for showing such visualizations to clients, because in many cases for some simple projects, this Diffusion will probably perform just as well as V-Ray, and regarding copyright, which raises quite a lot of emotions. In general, when it comes to artificial intelligence, specifically regarding SketchUp Diffusion, there is nothing to worry about. SketchUp Diffusion was trained on data created by the German charitable organization Lion, which prepared the model on data under a CC0 license, which is a license that also allows commercial use. This means that the pictures you create in SketchUp Diffusion can just as well be sold as posters. What you create in Stable Diffusion, SketchUp Diffusion, which uses the Stable Diffusion software, is entirely yours.
Hope you're feeling confident with SketchUp Diffusion now. Give it a try and see what you can create. It's really fun and surprisingly powerful. And if you find this helpful, make sure to subscribe so you never miss future tutorials like this. Thanks for watching and catch you in the next one.